12.64 seconds on his average time between tricks, 19.98 for his longest. So his longest coming down a little there, and his average time going up slightly, but still in that sweet spot. What a great first run it was. I believe this is his first competition. I believe he's only been riding for less than 2 months. So what a great start it is for his, hopefully, very great.
Well done, Daniel, and congrats to all of our competitors for submitting and participating in this online series. So now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the judging.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that is all the riding we have for you tonight. But before we get to the scores, we want to say one last big thank you, especially for everybody that entered in the non-competitive division. Luca and Andrew, you guys both killed it. I'm sure that we will see you across the series.
Absolutely. We love to see the new faces, newcomers, and all participants coming to the table with runs, especially in this online series. Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure hosting this with you. And as we get through it, now we got the scores for the women's division. As you can see, Ilaria did register but did not finish with the women's round. So that leaves Pauline Dent in second place and Cecile Lecon going down first, representing for Germany. And moving right along into our open men's division, we've had quite the situation of competitors with some incredible talent coming to the table. Unfortunately, Danny Munoz, Daniel Gonzalez had some pushes from support in their lines. It was not allowed for the rule book, and unfortunately was disqualified from this round. So keeping that in mind for your next submissions, guys, that's something that
Hey Tony, your mic is muted.
Yo, yo, how are ya? This is Tony T. We live on Twitch right now, my boy Thomas. We are live.
Very excited to be here.
Yeah. Let me do some housekeeping here. I got my little splash screen. I'm learning all the new tricks from you because I definitely, this live streaming thing is a new technology. Here we go. Got a little splash screen. Now we're going to do our little... So how was that? That was amazing, Thomas. That was an amazing...
I was a little nervous ahead of it. I think always are with this sort of stuff, but
Yeah, same here.
I think it went well. I'm looking forward to the next one. The chat looked pretty lively. There was people watching.
Nice. Yeah, we are brand new show. I've been trying to do this for quite a while. I've been trying to do this adaptive sports weekly show, giving people information not only on WCMX, but giving people information on events and various things. I mean, we have so much content, from all over the world that we can share with people, and I think that a weekly show that kind of gives what's popping, around the world, and I think that we can do all kinds of different sports, not just WCMX. I play wheelchair football, we do tennis, and we do other sports as well. So I think there's a little opportunity with this live streaming. But I am here. We're going to talk a little bit about the runs. For me, seeing myself up there, it's kind of always like, man, but I love seeing all the new riders. For me, that was impressive, seeing a lot of new riders, a lot of new faces. Definitely love seeing my kiddos and the ones that I'm working with over in Kenner.
100%. I think all the runs were fantastic. And love to see such a huge level of participation from American riders. I think America probably was the most represented country across the series, across the first round at least.
Yeah.
So I think very happy with that. I think hopefully it's only going to grow as the series goes. But I think it was great. Definitely see some familiar faces such as yourself, and yeah.
Yeah, I've been around in WCMX, and that's what we were talking to Victor. Like when we were over there, I was like, I can't believe I'm back at the Grand Prairie, Texas skate park, where for me where it began. Coming down the mega ramp. It wasn't there this time, but that's where I got introduced to this level of competition and being around just top level athletes, and it was a spark, definitely a spark that lit a flame, and now it's burning.
Yeah, sorry.
But I wanted to talk a little bit, not only about WCMX over in the UK, but a little bit more about, because I know we were talking a little bit off stream about the guidelines. I know we had some different situations happen with some disqualifications and stuff like that. I know we're going to go into another stream probably on that, but maybe touch on a little bit of the rules, I think there was you can't have pushers, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'll start by saying I appreciate the rules are pretty complicated. If you go onto the website, it's a long book, and I'm not a big reader myself, but we do have some posts on Instagram as well if you guys want to read something that's slightly more simplified than the website. But yeah, and I spoke with both riders that were unfortunately had to be disqualified this time personally, and went through the reasons why. But I think the biggest thing, certainly for riders that have competed in person comps before, is that almost all of the rules are identical. The only rules really on top of it, different to in-person comps, are rules that are specific about online. Things like, always making sure you're in frame, making sure that you start stationary so that we know you've not cut the camera and somebody's giving you a big push beforehand. Things that are, I suppose, the idea is trying to keep it sort of common sense, that sort of thing, in terms of the video stuff, to make sure, just root out, standard, what could be,
sort of malicious cheating attempts.
I
Although,
got you.
I think in a community like this, it's not like I think we'll face a humongous amount of it. But it's something, obviously we've got to have. But I think overall, I think the big hitters are obviously, of course, the same as in-person comps. In the Pro League, we have this classification system now. If your classification card says no pushing, then there's no pushing. Your classification card, when you apply for classification, you should be emailed it. And then in Pro League, unless your classification card says otherwise, there is no pushing. There are a few loopholes at in-person comps. Well, not loopholes per se, but there can be different scenarios at in-person comps. However, they are very, very unlikely at in-person comps, and even more unlikely at online comps.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. Definitely the rule books can be a little tricky when you're first coming beginner. For trying to give them at least the raw basics of what a competition run is, because I think I had a hard time explaining that to some of the riders on what exactly is a competition run. 90 seconds, all you got, but at the same time, you got to do tricks in between. You got to figure out your lines, and a lot of new riders just don't get that just yet.
It is very challenging. A competition line, for those who don't know, to go to complete basics. In a competition run, you have 90 seconds, essentially to do whatever you want, within the bounds of not having pushes and that sort of thing. But in terms of tricks, the line you take through the park, I always kind of describe it as it's kind of similar to synchronized swimming. You have a minute 30 in the park, and you want all of your different tricks and movements to flow together, sort of almost as one entity, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing. And the big thing that I always say to riders when they're new is, reach out to somebody. I'm about there. You know what I mean? You can find me on Instagram. You can reach out via World WCMX or, via the IWS Instagram. There's lots of places you can reach out. If you've already registered for the series, you'll have my email or an email for someone. And, I know most people probably already know me and may have my phone number. So if there ever is a question, please reach out. We would rather, I would rather spend, half an hour on the phone with somebody explaining how to do it or what the rule exactly is and what their best bet is, than I would have to, phone somebody before a comp and say, I'm sorry, unfortunately, this time you've been disqualified.
Yeah,
no.
You don't want that. We don't want that.
No, nobody wants that. I think as an organisation, obviously, our sort of mission at World WCMX, that I'm very fortunate to be a very small part of, is just to grow the sport. And I think that's what we all want. And the best way to do that is to get new people in to push that grassroots level, and certainly that grassroots level of competition. So that really is our job, to support riders in that aspect.
No, definitely. That's a lot of what I do here in Louisiana, and I've been doing for a while now, is supporting athletes. I do it with wheelchair football. I do it with other sports as well. There's all kinds of different areas, not just being out there on a competition run, but trying to find chairs. There's so many different things, that come into getting a new sport. So when somebody tries to get in there, the rules sometimes could be overwhelming for some people, especially when there's so many. Like in football, it's the same thing. So many rules, but when we do it right and you do it awesome, you have fun at the same time. It's an amazing thing to be around in something like that, in something this big, because I see it growing. I see it growing all over the world, and that we just seen that.
Definitely, and I like to think, in many of that aspect, I can sort of be a shining example of what WCMX can do for your life. I'm 17 years old and I've had so many fantastic opportunities from WCMX. I think, adaptive sports in general are, amazing and they can be, life-changing.
Yeah.
But I think WCMX specifically is such a special sport.
Yeah, same here. There's something with it that changes perspectives of people that are around it, that are helping, that are just involved in it. It's kind of like it's breaking down so much stuff that I don't see other sports doing, and I see it very special for me as well. Like, it's been giving me an action-packed life. I can't complain on the life at WCMX. That's why I say it's given me a beautiful life, and I owe it life. So I am dedicated, committed on the strongest level of seeing this sport reach as high as it can go, because I've seen the possibilities. I see it with my kid, Andrew Rendon, who just, I'm so proud of him going down them stairs, because I worked on those stairs with him and he was so scared. But at the end of the day, he was just riding. Like, it changes his perspective as well. And it changes us all completely.
100%. I mean, I was just saying it to someone today, that WCMX, you really get out of it what you put in. If you spend a day training and you learn 3 tricks, you've got 3 tricks out of that. Whether that's 3 tricks just because you're happy you've learned it, or maybe it's 3 Instagram posts or whatever it is you want. Exactly what you put in is what you're going to get back out. I think, and in some ways it can be different to sort of team sports. With some team sports, obviously you're working together, so some people do less and some people do more. Whereas with WCMX, it's really what you do. If you push it and you're there and you're at the forefront, then that's exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's all on you, and that's what I love about it. It doesn't take anything except me, my attitude, and the willingness to go outside and go shred. Like, I can just say, hey, let me put my chair in the car, let's go. I'm at the skate park, and I don't need anybody to tell me, hey, if I'm, that's another thing, because we're so new. It's kind of like trying to put, like, almost like a football team, let's just say like football team. Like, you're depending on everybody there. Like, we're dependent. And with this, it's really just us, just me, myself, and going out there and just the willingness to go have fun. Because in the end, it should be fun, right? It should be something fun. Because why else do it?
100%.
But I understand that it's for somebody coming into a skate park brand new, it's overwhelmingly full of fear. I remember my first time, I was so scared. It's a fight with fear, and you're going to fall. You might break. You might, I mean, I'm on top of a mega ramp. I'm looking down. I'm like, oh my God, I might die. But, it's that fear that kind of like I live for nowadays. It's kind of like that bug that I get in my stomach where I'm like, oh, you know how it feels.
And to be clear for the lawyers in the back of the room, we of course do take every safety precaution, and we always recommend riders wear helmets and pads and whatnot.
Oh, yes. My clinics is the same way. Like, I've got volunteers that are out there. We're always shredding it up with full safety. But yeah, we're definitely going down some mega ramps. Remember Woodward? I mean, you were doing spins in the middle of the air in Woodward. I mean, that's the level of talent, that we see with some of these riders like you yourself and Aaron and even Emilio, doing hand plants. I mean, I remember me trying the hand plant for almost, oh my God, until I broke my wrist and broke my hand. I was like, I can't do it anymore.
Well, I mean, and the hand plant is one of those tricks that is sort of, I suppose, illustrious in that way. It is very difficult. And that's what's great to see. We're seeing so many riders now shredding. I mean, in that run, I think what was interesting is that we saw riders that weren't necessarily, when you look back at 2024's in-person series and you look at the leaderboard, and you look, who was at Birmingham, who was at La Quinta, who was at Switzerland, and you look across those events, we didn't see some of those big names, and yet the riding was still so engaging and high level and really good. Other than Emilio and I suppose yourself, there was a lot of new names in there really, and I think that's really good to see. I know David wasn't competing. Obviously, I wasn't competing. Marco Thieser out of Germany wasn't competing. Tony
so
Martin from California. There's all these sort of people that over the past 3 years have been big hitters that we didn't see that, and yet the riding was still so engaging. So I think that's great to see. There's always new riders coming onto the scene, and I think that's really what makes a sport healthy and allows it to keep that momentum going.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I work on a lot, trying to bring new riders. I believe that it starts at the local level. We start at the local level, our hometown little skate park, wherever that is. And you just go out there and just start making clinics and start meetups and start doing that kind of stuff, because it starts there at the local levels, introducing it to, because here in Louisiana, I mean, it wasn't, till I jumped in the scene over here, there was like hardly anything as far as WCMX. And I've been working on it for like 5 years now. And now I see riders, I see commitments, I see more athletes wanting to try the sport than I've ever seen before. And I love that. I truly live for that. And I see that in the UK as well. I mean, you guys' program over there, I mean, it's been growing, right? I mean, it's been.
Well, we had a program in Manchester that we ran for maybe 2 or 3 years, and that was somewhat successful. Unfortunately, we ended up having equipment issues. So now, mainly in Manchester, we don't run sessions per se at the moment. We'd love to get back into that, but right now we do have 2 chairs that are available for rent. So if you're in the UK and you want to go give it a go, you go to Greystone Action Sports in Manchester. There are now chairs available. I believe there is another skate park that also may have chairs available for rent, which is sort of down south of England.
Yeah.
And I know we saw there a Griffin Given. I know there is a huge community that ride at Bay 66. And that's sort of built off the back of what I believe is like a trans skate organisation. And that's shot up, and I can't take any credit for that. I'm sure maybe there's some riders that are riding down there that had ridden at Manchester previously. But I'm not one to I don't want to take credit for their work. They're doing some incredible stuff down there, and being able to see it grow in London, it's nation's capital. It's really good to see. But I think like kind of like what you were saying with grassroots level, and these are sort of discussions that are happening now on the board. In that, when we look forward, where do we want the sport to be in 5 or 10 or 20 years? And if the current goal, not end goal per se, but the current big goal is, say, Paralympics inclusion, then I suppose, what do we do once we've got there? Let's say tomorrow the IPC or whatever, they sign on the dotted line, they say, great, WCMX is in. What happens the day after? Will we have any riders?
Yeah.
Because if the grassroots isn't growing now, when we join in, say, 2032 or maybe even after, you need riders that are my age then.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, obviously I'm 3-time world champ. Fair to say I'm probably, front of the pack. And it's like, but realistically in 2032, am I going to be there? I'm going to be aging on. Practically a fossil.
Yeah.
I'll be in my 20s. But we need that generation of people that are coming up, as so many are now. We saw Alex Verdu on this.
Mm-hmm.
Back at Switzerland, we saw riders like Max Dorker, riders at that sort of level. But obviously, eventually, as they obviously grow up and they progress, they're probably not going to be the generation that are going to be new for 2032. So I think really focusing on this grassroots now, building the people who can be the leaders of the grassroots community in 2032, I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. Super important. I always tell, start with introducing people, be an ambassador in your own country, in your own, local community, and just start bringing meetups, start there. And then just, because more riders, definitely. I mean, I've seen a lot of younger, and I always try to get them young, because that way they're not only learning about adaptive sports at a young age, and it's health and confidence and so many benefits from it as it is just to be involved in sports, but to start this young, and then be like a Damon Munoz who's just shredding it. Like, was over there in Texas, and I have seen his progression. He was like a little kid at 4 or 5 years old when I started riding with him, and now he's beating me. He's so good. He's dropping in some huge things, and I'm like, to see that progression. And I know he's worked with a lot of top level athletes all through his career, but it's changed him, and it's made him a more he's just an outgoing personality, just riding confidence, and I see that change in kids, now with the ones that I'm working with. It's a life-changing thing. Like, we go back to that. It's a life-changing thing, and I think that in introducing something like this to as many young riders as we can possibly, and just, even if it is just learning how to chair control, learning basic curves and stuff like that, because that's where it starts with a lot of people. You got the world is inaccessible sometimes, so you have to go through it like a shred in a skate park. And I believe that this sport does that. It trains us almost like a boot camp. Boot camp for life.
Definitely. Well, I mean, I remember I got my first wheelchair in 2019, and this was before COVID. But I remember I got my wheelchair through the NHS here in the UK, and the guy who delivered it came to my door, knocked on, passed it to my mum, who answered the door, and went, "Have a good day." And that was it, So if you're using a wheelchair for the first time, that's, I don't know, I think it was early 2019. So that's early 2019, first time I've ever used a wheelchair. and I know nothing.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way. You know, you look at the UK, our streets are so old, so we've got cobblestones everywhere. It's not drop curbs. A lot of places aren't particularly accessible. There's these places that are, you know, super hilly.
I can
getting
see.
around
I bet it's hard just to get around through all that.
It can be, and you know, if you don't know how to go into a manual, you know, getting over cobblestones is going to be a nightmare. And if you can't go off a drop, then when you get to the end of that sidewalk, as you would say in America, you can't go off that curb or get back up it. So I think the skills you learn in a skate park are so pivotal to what's your everyday mobility. You know, I was in Glasgow just over a week ago, and we'd gone out to a snooker club one night to go play snooker. And I'd parked up a couple of blocks away because it was busy. And we were walking there, and it's over this little cobblestone path, and then up and down a curb, and then there was a car parked on the pavement, so I had to come out into the street, hop back on, and then go in. Going inside, there was a lip and a steep ramp, you know, and then getting to the top of that ramp, you've got to open a door, so you've got to be able to stop yourself on a ramp and then push while holding the door. Skills like that, if I didn't have experience in WCMX, incredibly difficult to do. And I meet so many people that have been wheelchair users, you know, people that are, you know, later in life, and they've been wheelchair users for 30, 40 years, some people, and they can't do, you know, a wheelie, and they can't, you know, go up and down a curb. And you must, I always think how limiting that must be in their mobility and their daily life, that they can't go and explore cities in the UK because the majority of them are so old that they have this. And even, you know, America, to be fair, is very accessible with the ADA stuff. But there are, of course, still places that aren't going to be. And I think not being able to experience that must be so limiting for a person's life. And I think that is such a great example of what WCMX can be.
Yeah, definitely. I truly believe that it changes the way we move in the world. You know, we just. I mean, I'm down in the quarter sometimes, and it's the most inaccessible place sometimes. But you know what? I go down there. I love shredding the streets. I love, you know, jumping the curves, and everybody's always looking around like, whoa, this guy, you know, jumping stairs, and you know, it just makes you move differently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember we met up. And Tony got to meet up in downtown New Orleans.
Yep.
What? God, 2025?
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, you came down. Yeah, I think you came down, and we shredded up a little bit down in New Orleans.
Yeah. And it's, you know, and New Orleans is probably a great example maybe for Americans that aren't necessarily well versed in you know, how British cities look. New Orleans is probably quite similar, you know, with that sort of older style of architecture that's quite common in you know, the UK and obviously the rest of Europe. And getting around places like that can be incredibly difficult without being able to have these skills.
Yeah. No, definitely. But I am going to, let's see what else we had here on us. I mean, we can go on a rampage. I know me and you. But I wanted to ask a couple questions. Like if somebody's preparing for the next one, yeah, like round 2. I mean, we're coming up to round 2. That was one of the things that I wanted to ask was, if somebody's preparing, how would I prepare? How would somebody new beginner prepare, Thomas? Like for round 2 that's coming up, I think it's August, you said? August, right?
I believe it is August 27th, maybe 28th. Don't hold me to that. I'll have to check. But it's something like that. It's late August. And don't forget, obviously, all riders. And here's a great thing. Everything must be submitted a week beforehand, so don't forget that.
Yep, that was also a big thing, too, of trying to get it in on time.
We saw a few riders here. Obviously, I know 28th, thank you. Somebody just, 28th. I think that's David's put in the chat. But yeah, I know, and you know, for obviously examples like David and Laria pulled out, I believe, because of injuries or for general health. But we saw some riders that DNF'd, and that was because they'd missed the upload deadline. Because what usually happens is judging happens a week beforehand, so that we're not sort of under pressure to try and get it done while the live stream's running.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that the videos are in ahead of schedule. So that's a big thing for riders to keep in mind. But I think other than that, you know, the biggest recommendation I have is please read the rulebook. Obviously certainly if you've not competed at a World WCMX comp before, read the whole thing. You know, not the whole thing, but read the divisions, read the general run out of how competitions work, read the online segment. Of course, as I mentioned before, any questions, please shoot them.
And with classifications, because I know we
Highway or
introduced, when Lorraine was around, we had introduced the classification system, which sometimes can be a little tricky in itself, you know. But I think that
I
with
know-
this too, we classify, right? We classify each rider as well.
Yeah, so essentially, every rider's a form. I believe it's on the World WCMX website under regulations. And there's a form you can fill out. It takes, I think, maybe half an hour to do. And at the end of that, you'll receive a rider card, which will have your classification, and that is your coordination, your upper extremity strengths, your arms, your chest, your core, and your hips. And then those scores basically result in it gets banded, and obviously certain riders will then be allowed pushes onto certain ramps. So we have what's called rider classification and the feature classification. So let's say you are a certain band of rider, you would be allowed to ride a certain band, or be allowed to push on a certain band of features. Online, it makes it a little trickier for us, and that's why we say please definitely reach out, maybe send us a picture of the feature if you're not sure. If you think maybe with my classification would I be allowed that, please shoot us an email, shoot us a message, picture, or I'm happy to get on a video call with somebody if that's easier, and we can make sure that everybody knows what they're doing. And then, because how that works on the back end is when, as judges, we're watching your videos, we have your video up and we have your classification. And usually how it ends up working is we'll end up watching the run, we give it a base score of what each judge will then give it a base score of what they think it is. Then the judges will discuss, judges will go over the classification, and each judge will then give another individual score. And then once they all have their finalised scores, that will get averaged together, resulting in your final score for that run. Now, of course, online comps only have one run, so that's only one set of scores, whereas obviously in person we'll have two runs, and obviously sometimes best trick. So I think the big thing is making sure you're using the classification. If you're in that pro league, certainly, even in intermediate or non-competitive, if you'd like to do it, we certainly recommend to do so. I think it can be interesting just necessarily to know where you place, not even necessarily for the judging. But after that, I mean, what can be a great help is going back. We have this first round now, so go through, give it a watch, see what the riders have done, see what's worked, see what hasn't, see what, say, me and Victor have said we liked. Might be a good indicator. And then, we also have the one from 2024. You can also go back and watch that. And then obviously in terms of training, just riding as much as you can is obviously massive.
Practice and more practice.
Definitely, yeah. And if you're in an area where you can go and join a group, maybe with people who have done it before, that's obviously massive. Obviously if you're in New Orleans, obviously
I'm the go-to down there in Louisiana. I stay in the south because of the weather, so I love that south weather.
Definitely, so do I. I'm missing it right now. We've got it. It's hot for the 1 week in the UK. It is at the moment, and we don't have any AC. So I'm currently in my office right now. It's like a hot box. But I'm definitely missing American weather and American AC. But,
I know you. It's been a while since you've been in the States, right? You haven't been over here in a minute. It's been a little bit.
I was last in America in early February. I think February 16th was my last day in America.
Oh wow! So it's been a little while.
So I've been over here for a little while right now. So as I was saying, reaching out to whoever's in your local area. If you're in Texas, Andrew and Chris, the boys over at Ability, people to speak to in Texas, and Ability, they travel all over. So go on their website, find out what's coming up on their Instagram.
AbilitySkateboarding.org, I think, is their website. I do a lot with Andrew. I'm all over the place with them, and I was just in Texas over there doing the Move United, the activation grant with them, and they were stoked. I mean, they're going to be opening new doors to a lot of riders, new beginners, and it's a blessing sometimes, when we look at the cost of all of this stuff, because there's a big cost. There's a huge cost, not just in chairs, but travel and plane tickets, and you know how it is.
Yeah. And those boys, they're true professionals. I've been very fortunate to be able to do some guest coaching stuff for them over the past couple of years, and those boys are fantastic at what they do. And even if there's not necessarily a local organisation to you, if there is a local rider, most people here, it's a very big community, and almost everybody will always help out. So if you don't know if there's somebody around in terms of an organisation, reach out to a person. Over in Europe, I'm not sure exactly who the best person to reach out to for Switzerland would be, but I know there's lots of stuff going on over there. And obviously in Germany, David and everybody over at Sitskate, they're the go-to people over there. I know there's Practical in France, and I believe they were just in the Netherlands, so I'm not sure if they don't travel about. And I think I've seen David doing stuff in the Netherlands as well before, I believe. So, those guys are always traveling around Europe. So if you want to reach out to them, even if, they're not running an event themselves, if there's another organization, it's a very, nobody's sort of precious that way. If another organization's doing it, people will always pass you on to the right people. So I think that's a big thing is trying reaching out to other people in the community.
Yeah, no, I see more and more organizations jumping on board and doing clinics, and with Andrew all over the place doing like just the little demonstrations. I've done a few demonstrations, and I do a lot of that as well, like a lot of demos, just to introduce people, just to what it is, and because people don't know. It's some people don't even know it's possible that wheelchairs can do tricks and stunts and come in and do backflips and all this other stuff. I mean, when I got the Kenner and at the city recreation department there, they were blown away by it. They were like, "You could do what?" I mean, yeah, exactly. And now we're hosting big I don't know, like events. Let's just say events. But we're bringing top level athletes to that little skate park, and it's like now I'm like, man, let's keep it going, keep that momentum going, just like anything else.
Definitely, yeah. And I'll just say, David's just put in the chat there. In Netherlands, it's the wheelchair skills team. So thank you very much.
See the skills, and I've seen videos of them.
Okay.
I've seen, because it is almost like a skills. Like, I mean, that's one of the ways that I tell the parents. It's like, we're out here, we're working on our skills, we're working on our chair skills, and so it's like a wheelchair skills. Eventually they're going to take those skills off the skate park.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, just to go back to the online for a moment, that I didn't mention, is that if you have a run and maybe it's your first time and you're not too keen on competing, but you still want to be a part of the event, please put into that non-competitive division. And
yes.
in non-competitive, obviously all the rules are very lax. Obviously, because you're not competing, there's no stress over pushes, there's no stress over the filming being perfect or anything like that. If the video isn't a perfect minute 30, we're not too bothered. We just want people to be involved and be a part of it. I remember the first event I ever competed in was the World Championships in 2020. And for those who don't know, the World Championships in 2020 was online, obviously due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd started riding in January of that year, and the event was in October, I believe. And I remember putting in for that event and watching it. I remember I watched it at Greystone, watched it with my parents, and I watched it with my my coach at the time, a guy called Rob Sidlow. He's now doing freestyle development stuff with British Cycling. And I remember watching it there and thinking it was so amazing that I'd only been riding for a couple months and that I'd had this opportunity to ride with these people, even though I wasn't with them in person, but I was riding with these people from, people like David who was in Germany and people in Australia and the States, all over the world. And I think that had such an impact on me. It's why I've always been super passionate about having online events. I've been trying to make this happen now since 2022?
Yeah.
And I've pitched this to anybody that had listened since 2022. So yeah, I mean, it's so cool. We've been able to get the series going. So I think hopefully this can have a really big impact on somebody else like it did on me.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why I want to, with this live streaming thing that I've been trying, and thanks to you, I've been able to at least get something out of it. But I see the avenue for not just the online contest, but just the opportunity for us to share, what's going on, talk a little bit about the resources, because I see a lot of athletes, main blockage is trying to get a chair, so, just on our website, World WCMX, there's a resource page. Go on there, try to look at all the stuff that we put together, because we put a lot of back end work, and and we want to make sure they get the resources.
Definitely.
All right, we got another question I wanted to ask you, which,
All right.
and then I think it's the 206. All right. No, no. I guess I asked that. We've been talking all over. The same question I was going to ask you was going to already asked. But that's how it is. But no, I think that this round was awesome. I believe for the next one, we'll work a little bit more on bringing more riders, because that's trying to bring more riders in and trying to bring new riders that are, introduced to this. To make it even more. I didn't see a lot of women. Like, I think how many women submitted? I think it was only like a couple, 2 or 3 of them.
It was we had 3 registered, but 2 submitted. Yeah,
2
so
submitted.
that's a big thing. And of course, the women's division is obviously severely missing Lorraine. And obviously she was such a big hitter in the women's division. So I think that's obviously. I mean, this is the first comp following Switzerland without Lorraine, and I think it is very obvious that the division misses her.
Oh,
but I think hopefully that can motivate us more to grow the women's and to grow it as much as possible. So yeah, I think let's try and push it. And the other thing as well, I can't announce the exact details yet, but hopefully we're going to have some stuff in terms of sponsorship coming in. So we'll be able to offer prizes for the end of the series, which will be hopefully very big in encouraging new people in. And the big thing I think that I really want to stress to riders who maybe aren't sure about it is that there really isn't any pressure to go out and be world champion on your first go out. If you're not sure about it, just there's really zero pressure put in. Everybody's just having fun.
And that's what I do. I just have fun. Just go out there, shred it up. I look at the competition because there's always this side, recreation versus competition, right? And I've had a lot of these talks all the time. And I'm like, well, competition, I see my progression. When I'm around, like, competing, like, the spirit of it, it's like I see more progression than when I'm just lax, just having fun, When I'm just having fun, it's not like I'm pushing myself. But when I'm out there with you guys, or when I'm doing the world championships, I'm trying stuff that I normally wouldn't try on a regular recreation, like, session, So it kind of like I see my like jumps, like huge jumps of like progression than when I'm just laxed.
Definitely, yeah. And I think we're hopefully only going to see it grow. And as David has just put in the chat, obviously the summer, certainly for country, over this side of the pond, it's going to get a bit hotter, a little bit drier.
Yeah, here too. It's going to be hot. Working in the sun is not good.
No. But certainly for Europe, I think we'll see probably more participation because of that. So hopefully, it's sort of only onwards and upwards from here.
Definitely.
But I'm very excited to see what will come.
No, I'm definitely, and I can't wait for us to come. The World Championships are around the corner. We're going to be at La Quinta. I've already kind of got my stuff squared away. I'm bringing a team because I always try to bring some of my local riders to come compete. You're going to be at the La Quinta, or are you going to be at the? You're going to be competing at the Worlds, right? Well, I don't think we called it Worlds. What was it called?
It's not a bit of a fraudulence.
Yeah.
Not the Worlds. It's the North American. Now, while it is North American, I will say it is not North American only. You can be, of course, from anywhere in the world and compete. The name is obviously because of the location. But yeah, I hopefully, knock on wood, I'd love to be there. So we'll see how the year goes.
Yeah, I'm planning it. I'm planning on being there as well, and I'm bringing a few of the riders that I've been working with, because they've never. Some of the riders, like Jeremy, was his first time at the Birmingham. That was his first Worlds, and now he's like, oh yeah, he's been working with me. I see that commitment level, and I'm like, oh, yeah, we definitely got to go represent. Once you have that commitment level, we get in a chair working on that, and going out to these events and these competitions is. It's not only an eye opener for me, like yourself, but it's also like, wow, you're around top level athletes, and just the huge tricks that you guys do are like off the charts, crazy. And like David LeBooster, I've seen him in the past doing some crazy stuff, grinds, and I'm like, wow, I'm in awe of it, just being around it.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, the standard of riding is just continues going and going and going. I mean. You look at where skateboarding was, back in not even going back to sort of, the 70s and 80s, but just looking how it's progressed in the last 10 years,
yeah.
Go to 20 years, and you've got to think now where WCMX could be in that time and the progression that it will go. I think that can only be, massive for this. It's
It's
literally,
huge.
it really can only go upwards. So I think that's very exciting. Now, I do have a question for you, actually, Tony.
Oh, okay.
And not to put you on the spot here, but I heard Victor, when we were commentating there, he mentioned, and I know nothing's confirmed yet, but he mentioned that we may be looking at something big happening in Louisiana for 2027. Now, I know you can't confirm anything.
Not
but,
just yet. Not just yet. I'm still working on it. I'm still waiting for my recreation department over at the Pelican Skate Park. We're locking down dates, but it's looking like sometime in April I want to host the Worlds, which has always been a dream of mine to host the Worlds. But I didn't have the skate park. You have to have the right skate park. And with the grand opening of the Mandeville skate park, a 30,000 square foot skate park, I'm hoping to lock it down ASAP so I can start working it, because I'm like that kind of jump on it, kind of attack kind of guy. And I want to be able to have as many participants as possible to come out there. And it'll probably be something where I'm thinking like spend 5 days out here with us, 3 days at the skate park, but then have a couple days of just going out to the quarter, checking out the state park that's there. I mean, it's a beautiful place down here. We have it's a destination. A lot of cool stuff. So it looks like it's going to happen, and we've already got approval. Like, I'm reaching some hurdles. I'm jumping the hurdles. But I definitely think that for April, we're going to have Worlds 2027. And that would be amazing to have all you guys down here, doing it up. And not only, like my kiddos, I work a lot at the local level, and seeing we had Aaron at our Unity Jam Fest not too long ago. And you know how huge that was to have Aaron out there. My kids were over the moon, and I'm over the moon too when I'm around it. It's like, the kids wanted their Hot Wheels and, little stuff like that, because it's mind-blowing. It changes lives, and I see that with what we're doing, and I think that having all of you guys here, it's a dream. It's a dream. So it's not confirmed just yet, but it's looking very likely.
Well, that's very good to hear, and I look forward to it. It sounds like an absolute dream out there in Louisiana. I got out there for a couple of days, as we mentioned before, for one of your programs, and it's a lovely place and a great area of America. Obviously, a big airport there in New Orleans. You can fly in basically from anywhere. So
yeah, I'm working on my Kenner skate park. When we got to the Kenner skate park, I was looking for a place to do clinics, and I seen it like such potential, and I was like, wow, this is an amazing skate park, right? That's what I need. All I needed was a baby skate park to run clinics. And the city there has opened so many doors by putting in accessibility, putting new lights. They've done so much work to try to get it to not only be accessible for us, but, make it nicer. And now I'm pushing them a little bit. Like, let's make it a regional destination. You got to keep at it. With a lot of this stuff, you got to keep persistence. So that's one of the things I love about WCMX is that it makes us persistent. It makes us like, well, it might not work right now, but if I keep trying it, eventually it might work, right? It might. Skate or die is what a lot of skateboarders, right? Either you skate or die. But I definitely see that skate park being just the work they've put into it, it's an amazing. So I get a lot of support from my city. I get a lot of community support, and I love that. Working with my recreation team there, we do programming now. We're doing a lot of basketball and football stuff, and it's growing, because it's not just one sport. And that's why I wanted to do with this show is to introduce all of these cool different sports in a cool way. So every week, no matter where I'm at in the world, I'm gonna get somebody on. I'm gonna try to get like now Jeremy. Jeremy is a basketball player. He's a pro basketball player, and he does a lot of stuff for the NOLA crew down there, and I do a lot of stuff with those guys, and those are the guys that I'm introducing to WCMX. The basketball guys, the football guys. I get a lot of support from them. They're out there, they're hustling, they're making their sport grow like we're doing, and I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Definitely, and if there's a man for the job, I think it'll definitely be you. But I think really, I've been reading a lot recently. I got into for a bit of a personal thing here. I got into snooker recently. Now I imagine most American viewers won't know what snooker is. It's kind of similar to pool. The table's a bit bigger. It's played a bit differently. But I got into that recently, and the World Championships for snooker were just a few weeks ago in Sheffield at the Crucible, and and there was a lot of Chinese players. Now, when sort of snooker was probably at its peak in the UK, probably back 80s, 90s, there was 0 Chinese players. But I was reading about how it had come about and how that had happened, and they started doing exhibitions over there with Steve Davis and Matchroom and all those boys in late 80s, 90s. But really, they started pushing it heavily in the 90s, and in 20 years, how that sport has progressed in the country of China, and what they've been able to do now that there's so many more Chinese people that actually play this sort of what I guess would be seen as a profoundly British sport than they're played in the UK.
Wow.
It's like for every sort of snooker club that's closing down in England, 2 are opening up in China. That's not an exact stat, so don't quote me on that. But I think it's insane to see what really directed growth from an organisation like Matchroom that pushed it can do to a sport. And I think that's exactly what we can sort of aim for in this. And I really hope it's the same sort of outcome we can see.
No, I think we're getting momentum, more visibility. I'm a high impact, high visibility. I always say we got to have high impact, high visibility. So when we do events and we do demonstrations, or we're just out doing it like something, it's like high, like let's make it impactful so people can take something home with them, and be like, wow, that was an awesome event. And that's what I'm hoping to do when Worlds 2027. That's why I want to work it immediately to do a high impact, high level of not just a competition, but an overall event, because I think that we have an opportunity also, with you guys from the UK and Germany and Brazil to show each other's culture. Like were you at Switzerland? Yeah, you were in Switzerland. I mean, I didn't get to go to Switzerland, but it's totally different over there. I've never been out of the country, so that's something that I'm going to start looking into for the future, because I definitely are a little fearful about jumping those big trips, but we can give it a shot.
Definitely. And I think just to go back to the online series for a moment, obviously we've just had the first round tonight. We've got the second round coming up. If you have already registered for the first round, whether you submitted or not, you will receive an email probably in the coming weeks about information about what will be required for the second round. If you have not registered for the first round but would like to compete in the second and going on through the series, that is obviously more than okay. So we invite you to please go back to the site on World WCMX. You can register just as you could have, last week for this comp.
Yeah.
So the way you'll have seen that series points worked is that we had so the first place got 100 points, second place 90, so on and so forth, going down by 10. So that is a series point. So now as we move in, whoever wins the next event will of course get 100 points, and then the final event will be double points. And there'll be a few more things that are asked of riders, best trick, possibly things like that. I can't say much right now, but there's going to be a few more things going on at the final round. And we'd also looking to possibly have adaptive skate as a sort of open a part of the third round. So there's lots of things going on right now.
Nice.
But so specifically for this next round, if you've already registered, please keep an eye out. You'll receive an email with information. If you haven't yet registered, please get registered. You're not out. It's not too late. You can get into it.
Yeah. They should. Anybody who's thinking that they just try it. This is a great way to get introduced to the network, to get introduced to all of us. Just seeing the new riders that are coming out. Just introduce yourself, kind of, with your skills, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly, and as I said before, with any doubt, if there's any issues, any problems, anything. If you've already registered, you've got my email. If not, you can go onto my website. You can go to World WCMX.
Yep.
Find me on Instagram, IWS on Instagram, World WCMX on Instagram. Reach out to anybody you can. They'll send you my way. And we want to make sure as many people can have fun and compete. That's our end goal with this.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
We want to make sure we can get as many people involved as possible. So please do not doubt to put in. And let's make some fun.
No, I think we're going down that way. We're going down that way. Well, we're almost reaching the 2:30 line, which I said I'm going to do an hour a week. So I am going to be committed. I'm committing right now in front of the world, an hour a week. Thursdays 1 p.m. to have chats with different riders. I wanted to make it where it's more international, where there's a lot more people, because we have time zones and so many different. That was tricky just finding the right time that everybody's going to be up and awake. Because what time is it over there right now in the UK?
Right now in the UK, it is coming up on 8:30.
See?
So that's what, 9:30 for everybody over in Europe. And it'll be what, 6 or 7 a.m. in Melbourne, I think. Yeah, the time zones don't half make this sort of stuff complicated.
Yeah, it makes it a little complicated, but that's why I think this we have an opportunity here to reach a lot of people. And I think every week, I'm gonna be talking different types of sports. Jeremy's gonna come on next week. We're gonna talk basketball. You're gonna come back on. We're gonna talk more about the rule book. We're gonna just keep bringing these topics to the forefront, so that way we can figure things out for people in their local communities and how to be a resource to them, because I'm always a resource number one. Come find me if you need anything. And I know I work a lot with WCMX, but other sports as well. I'm in every sport. I like to move. And for me, being 49 years old and still, my birthday September 18th, I'll be 50. So for me to be 50 and still shredding it with you guys, it's an amazing feat. It's an amazing thing.
Well, Tony, thank you for having me on.
No, amazing.
Hopefully, I've not waffled on too much. I've got a pint in my hand, and I think I could probably talk forever.
I give you so much thanks, Thomas, because without you, I wouldn't have learned all this live streaming stuff. I mean, this live streaming has been a challenge in itself. Learning the ins and outs of you're definitely more of a pro than I am. I definitely a little intimidating coming into this space, but I think that with the more that I do, the more that we're doing, the more that we get it. It's persistence, right? Keep at it until we crack it.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And everybody at home, we'll talk to you next time. There'll be more information, and definitely come watch all these videos and contact with us if you need anything. We're always on an arm's reach, away. All right, guys. Much love from Louisiana.
Bye-bye.